In the post-Soviet republics, hired individuals who are not connected to domestic criminals of the powerful privileged caste by any clan ties experience intensive exploitation. Overtime is a time-based method of payment above the performance standard, where piece rate pay is combined with inadequately low wages. Small or medium businesses owned by neutral individuals cannot develop. Their activities are sporadic, unstable, short-lived, and ultimately chaotic due to the loss of mental self-identification and as a result of ideological and intellectual imitation and stealing. The cost of temporary economic growth is the natural cohesion with domestic criminality on the one hand, and with a powerful privileged caste on the other hand, which naturally leads to spiritual degeneration and criminalization of the individual. Therefore, unlike the Russian government corporation, where the economy lives off the export of raw material, neutral individuals who were born and live in the post-Soviet republics can only export themselves as a labor resource to Western Europe, or the USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or start a business on exporting manpower and exporting the employment of that manpower. Therefore, the young generation who lives in the post-Soviet space and who are neutral relative to power and domestic criminals must focus on the implementation of three priority tasks. First, learning foreign languages, depending on the country of their future residence and future employment, which will allow them to fit into the global social format. 2. Vocational training. 3. Education. In other words, that which determines the professional and technological or professional and business technological potential of a free person. The presence of creative independent thinking, freedom of thought, creates conditions for managing, organizing, and running one's own business, which can be feasible only when geared toward technologically developed Western European countries, USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, that is, the countries of the British Commonwealth. Why it is impossible to develop business in the post-Soviet space? For social reasons. Lack of a tendency toward reasonableness and striving for self-improvement. 2. Various psychological blocks, shyness and embarrassment in showing love and sexual sympathy, and therefore dependence on another person, which leads to homophobia, fear of bisexuality. Disloyalty to private property and private business, which is perceived as something hostile. Loyalty to the state monopoly, submissiveness to the threat of a stronger totalitarian criminal state, masochistic trust in the services of the totalitarian state. Greed coupled with egocentrism in an unwillingness to pay adequately for a product or service. Political reasons. Fear of globalism on the part of the authorities, resulting in a cult of nationalism, which presupposes a repressive immigration policy to prevent social renewal and economic development. The state nationalist criminal regime prevents the development of the economy in terms of the evolution of supply, and the total criminalization of society prevents the development of the economy in terms of the evolution of demand.